Hello and welcome to the Stanford Blacks Women in Tech video series, the aim of which is to progress and support women in the technology and finance industries. Stanford Blacks, one of London's leading technology and trading recruitment firms, it works with both organisations and candidates to ensure placements are the right fit on both sides and therefore long term. Today's conversations focusing on working from home, COVID, juggling the work-life balance and supermum syndrome. Well, I'm delighted that joining me today are Poonam Gupta, a software engineering lead. Hello, Poonam.
Hi there.
Carly Masick, Head of Data Management at HSBC. Hello, Carly.
Morning.
And Amanda Newman, a Senior Manager at Accenture. Hello, Amanda.
Hi, Laura. Hi, everyone.
A very warm welcome to you all. So let's get started talking about working from home. Here we all are at home. What's changed for you individually since before and during the pandemic? A challenging time? Amanda, begin with A. Would you like to start?
Yeah, it has been a challenging time. I've got 4 kids and a full-time job and a husband who runs a business. So it has absolutely been challenging. What's changed? So I work from home full-time at the moment. Our offices are still closed. Prior to the pandemic, I was working client sites in the city centre in Manchester. So March, obviously we all started working from home and it's been that way ever since. And obviously with a great period of homeschooling as well to juggle in between.
Sounds full on indeed. Poonam, what about yourself? What's changed for you working from home to a year ago to today?
To be really honest with you, Laura, I've recently moved to London. So it's been a massive change for me working from home here while I was caught up in the middle of a move. So not having the right equipments to be able to work from home has been really difficult. Plus for my 12-year-old, since it has been a change for him moving into a new country, so I had to give him more time to make him feel comfortable in the new setup, new environment with work, and with my spouse starting a new job as well has been really challenging. So with very little to no help here, it's definitely been difficult to juggle work with my son and the family in a new country. So for me, it has been the most challenging work from home time that I've ever had in the past.
That sounds full on as well. Is it smooth sailing for yourself, Carly? Give us some hope. Has it been an easy year working from home? I doubt it somehow.
I think it's definitely been a challenging time, and I echo Poonam's and Amanda's stories. I also have a 4-year-old that doesn't quite appreciate what a Zoom call means. So there's no boundaries between mum's on a call right now, probably don't want to chat to me. But I think also to add something else, that everybody's in a similar position. So I found, an interestingly, one of my colleagues who was based in India felt he was a little bit more included in the team because we all were working from home, whereas before we used to be in the office and having a chat. So it's leveled the playing field, I think, from a global team point of view for me as well.
That's interesting. And where we talk about the homeschooling and having the children at home, do you think that as women, as leaders in the tech and finance industries, you've had different experiences to perhaps your colleagues who don't have children, or male colleagues, or even the spouses and partners that you've mentioned?
I definitely think so. I do think there is an added element to having the kids at home and having to homeschool and organise. I am a little bit lucky that recently my 4-year-old has been able to go to kindergarten, or what do you call it in the UK? Sorry.
Nursery?
Nursery, sorry, yes, Australia.
We're global.
So I do think there is an added element of organisation and making sure that, you know, we make everyone is aware of what's happening and we keep organised, that potentially some people without kids don't have to worry about. But a lady in my team assured me this morning that having a puppy was equally as hard as having a 4-year-old. So I think everyone has their challenges.
That sounds interesting. And you know, the homeschooling part, whether it's a puppy training or you're doing actual lessons. Amanda, how did you make it work? Because if you've got 4 children at home, presumably of different ages, plus a job, a husband running a business, what happened to get that moving and working? Or did it very quickly become clear that, you know, things weren't going to work, perhaps?
Well, prior to the pandemic, I'd had a lot of support. I'm very lucky and blessed that I had nanny, childcare. So my twins at the start of the pandemic were just about to turn 4, and they've just had their 5th birthday. I have an 11-year-old daughter and a now 16-year-old son. And so they've all got very different needs. Obviously, GCSEs are looming, Year 7 was looming, and the twins that I actually just put them to one side. We also got, some of my family got COVID at the start of the lockdown, so it was hard. But I think, I know some people see resilience is a slightly dangerous game, because it is important to be resilient, but resilient with integrity. So I talked to my team about my struggles. I was very authentic. I lead a large team, and shared with them that I was juggling work and family. I was often sat around a toddler table in the playroom with my team's background looked like I was in an office. And that was to keep me calm, so I could see a calm scene in front of me, not because I was trying to hide what was going on. So I think it was important to maintain perspective. I had 20 weeks with no help at all, and everybody at home, and trying to juggle it all. And it was just a case of getting through day by day and making sure there was some warm days, take your lunch breaks, have those breaks, reprioritize if work can be reprioritized.
And did you feel the support from your team, that honesty and authenticity that you mentioned, did pay off, because people immediately knew that they could get you when they could get you, and obviously the productivity didn't dip? It was just a case of refocusing your time to make it work.
Yeah, absolutely. I was really lucky. I was supported tremendously by my firm and by my colleagues. And actually, I would say it was a big eye opener. I think I've got lots of male colleagues who take on equal parenting responsibilities. So they would often say, and that made me feel I could be even more open about it on my leadership team, that I could say, well, I need to go and do some homeschooling, because they would be sharing that responsibility with their partner as well.
And Poonam, for yourself, moving during a pandemic, as well as then the implications of settling children in, as well as yourselves into an established role, what were your coping mechanisms, and did you get the support from your employers?
Definitely, Laura. I can very well resonate with what Amanda and Carly are saying. I mean, exactly, having a child and homeschooling them has been really tough. And being in a new country, definitely that adds another level of complexity or hardship, especially for my son when he doesn't know his schoolmates and classmates. But I must tell you that not just my colleagues or my firm, but even the community, the school community, and his the fellow parents have been very supportive in coming out and providing all the help and support that they can with hey, I need to know where to get the school supplies from. Starting from that point, even the community has been very, very supportive. In fact, so having said that, even the my team members who knew that I am in a new country and I'm in a completely different time zone, because I was working in GMT time zone, whereas my team was either in a Pacific time zone or a central time zone. They were very accommodative of me, for me to be able to not join the meetings which were either too late in the evening for me, because it would be really late in the night. So definitely I've had all the support that I could ask for from my teammates, and also definitely from the new community that I'm a part of now.
That's really good to hear. And do you think that now women, particularly, and mothers, do need to have time, and going forwards, a more flexible environment and a more flexible working day is the reality for whatever happens in the next 6 months to year after the pandemic? What do you think, Carly?
I definitely think the trend and the discussions that we're having are showing a more flexible working arrangement, especially with our employers are talking about opportunities to work from home on a more frequent basis going forward. So we were very lucky that I work more in a back office side, so not customer facing. So we had that flexibility before, but now I think people are a lot more open to taking that, knowing that there's not somebody looking over them or somebody, worrying about whether they're doing their work. We've all worked from home. we've all proved that we can run a giant organization from home for the last 12 to 18 months. So I think it will definitely change the discussions and the opportunities as well.
And there's this saying, society expects mothers to raise their children as if they don't work and work as if they don't have children. Do you think that sort of approach to thinking has gone, or do you think it's still a work in progress? What do you think, Amanda? Did you feel perhaps during the pandemic that you were left to do everything? Was that part of being the super mum, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely take on the primary caring responsibilities and primary home care responsibilities. Really, it was up to me to make sure everybody was fed and that food was on the table. And I can't remember the statistic, but there's a statistic which says how many extra hours a woman took on in a day. Something like 4 to 5 extra hours of work through the pandemic, just through doing home duties. So yeah, I think that's been hard.
And Poonam, what would you say? I mean, if obviously coming to the UK, being here was new, but perhaps did you feel a responsibility that it was on you to be the parent and to support your son as he moved into a new place? Or do you think that was your role because you wanted it to be? Or did you think, actually, I need some external help here because I am so new to my environment as well?
That's a great question, Laura. And I would like to just give a little bit of background to my answer there. Now, as a woman, I know there are a lot of women who have this persona, or they feel that there is a need for them to be the provider for everybody all the time. I'm not sure whether to describe that as more of a guilt, maybe that because they are spending a lot of time at work, so they want to make up to their family and be the provider, or maybe it is the way the woman feels. It could be just the psychology of a woman that they want to be the nurturer and they want to be the provider, and they want to make sure that everybody in the family is happy and has all the comfort that they need. And she wants to obviously be able to work. So she has her own aspirations, and plus she also wants to be the provider. But in doing so, she gets lesser and lesser time for herself. So that's, for me, I guess, is the super mom syndrome, when they really want to do everything. But I feel that it is really important that women do become more open to take help from everybody, not just from people outside, but making each and every member of the family responsible. Just giving an example, that my 12-year-old son, if he's coming back from school and if I'm in a meeting, shouldn't be waiting for me to serve him food. He should just go to the kitchen and just take food in a plate and put it in the microwave and eat for himself. So I shouldn't feel bad that he's doing it. I made sure that he has food to eat. Now I want to make him responsible, that hey, you come inside the house and you can just take that food for yourself.
Did you find a point where the emotional impact, and Poonam mentioned the guilt word, which all working mothers, I think, feel in some format. How did you combat it with the practical side of things to get through, Amanda?
So with regards to the team helping, yeah, and it's hard, isn't it? Because they were also trying to focus on their work at difficult, times of their education. I didn't really expect my 4-year-olds at the time to do much, and they couldn't help themselves. So if I didn't feed them, they wouldn't have been fed. I tried to make it as easy and as accessible as possible for my older two, but I think it depends on your family dynamics. It would be ideal if we had a rota. My logical mind says we should have a rota. Everyone should have clear responsibility. This is how it should work. But this should is never quite reality, is it, for everybody? So I think it's important we don't judge ourselves or judge each other and accept our own unique situations. But I think Poonam made some great suggestions on best practice.
And Carly, when you're looking at that issue of guilt, you've worked from home before the pandemic as well as during. What was the transition? And is it a case that now, you know, sort of 12 months down the line, the guilt is gone because you cannot do everything as a working mother for everybody? You know, it just doesn't work. We've seen that this year.
I don't think the guilt ever really goes away 100%, because as Prina mentioned, we really do like to be the providers and make sure everything is running really well, and you know, everyone's provided for and work is going well and the team at work is going well, plus husbands and kids. So there's a lot there to, I guess, look after. I just always try and make sure that I'm balanced. So, you know, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, my little one will go to nursery. You know, my husband drops him off, I pick him up, I try and, you know, the 15 minutes to do pickup and just the little bits and pieces in there to intertwine into the day. But I definitely know on Saturdays, as an example, we have, you know, mummy time, and we dedicate and do some fun things. So I think the guilt doesn't always kind of factor into my daily plan, but I do try and make sure that I'm balanced across the week to give, you know, my kids some time. Obviously work has a lot of time, you know, yourself and your husband and time, and things like that. So the balance is what I try and keep there to help with the guilt.
Do you think that you've let that go? You can't do everything, or do you still think it's on your shoulder saying, oh, you haven't done this, haven't done that? Will you ever get that balance completely, do you think?
I'm going to be completely honest with you, Laura, on that. It doesn't go away, you know, even with that, you know, I still want to be there for my son. I want to be there for my husband, you know, when they need food. I want to be the one who goes in the kitchen and cooks something up for them. So, you know, it doesn't go away. It's something that you learn to probably deal with over the period of time, by especially in the time when you really don't have a lot of support system. When you have a lot of support system, then you lean on them. But in a time like this, when you cannot really have people come in to help you, you kind of want to do everything. Uh, so yeah, I mean, at the moment, it didn't go away for me. Probably when I have access to more support, someone who can come in and help me, probably that's when I could still see that go away a little bit. Yeah.
I think it's important as well. Something I try and remind myself of is you can only have 3 priorities in a day. So, you know, maybe identify your top 5 to 6 priorities, but recognize you can't do more than 3 of those in a day. So if today it's going to be your family and work and perhaps fitness, then you probably won't have time to spend time with your friends or some other things that you might want to do. So choose those top 3 priorities and accept it for that one day. And you can't be super mum and do everything every day.
Looking ahead, here we are, hopefully, you know, the restrictions are easing, and there's a great national debate as well as a global debate for organisations about, will people go back into the office, giving them the flexibility? What would your advice be, or what are you saying to your teams and your colleagues about going back in, particularly if some are feeling a pressure to go back in? And obviously there's people that will rush back into the office to be in an environment where they can work from. What do you think, Carly?
I think you're right. I think everyone, again, their experience is unique. And my message to my team, and also the message with our organisation, is flexibility to let people define their own working times and their own, you know, choices. So for those that really want to rush back into the office, and I'd love to go back into the office 1 or 2 days a week, that's fantastic. And let's, you know, how do we enable that safely and make sure people feel that the right processes are in place? But then also for those that like working from home now, or potentially might want to work earlier and get home earlier, I think for me and for my team, it's completely unique and dependent on their situation. So I don't see location as a barrier anymore, which I think is a really positive step forward.
And Amanda, when we're looking at organisations, in Stanford Black, you know, very much work with organisations to not only increase their talent pool to include more women, particularly in the tech and finance industries, but about the issues that are there. Do you think it will be the companies that offer that flexibility that are the most desirable for candidates and for those looking for those roles, and particularly for those with families?
Absolutely. I think the recruitment market is one for the employee at the moment. People can start to set their own boundaries and ask for what they want. We've demonstrated that working from home works. don't be afraid to have that discussion. And hopefully if they're working with an agency like yourselves, you can instigate that discussion for them, because in years gone by, I would have recommended don't actually discuss it until you're kind of offered the job, and then have a discussion about flexible working. Whereas now I think we're in a position where we can start to work with companies that perhaps might do job shares, or might encourage flexible working, or might allow some working from home, and we can start to have those discussions up front and inquire whether the company culture allows it and whether that's the right company for you. What's probably important to recognise is you mentioned earlier that productivity needs to remain, so you still need to deliver. So as we get into senior positions, it becomes harder when you've got to juggle all of this, and you're then trying to hold down a serious high profile job with significant deliverables. And I think, you know, the Career Mum group that I run, that's the messaging I was hearing back from people, that they were going under because they were trying to deliver high quality work whilst also being a full-time parent, and that was the juggle that was hard. So I think that's what perhaps if there was any change, I think organisations perhaps, and the ones that are going to have the highest employee value proposition, perhaps would consider, if there was to be a similar situation again, let's hope not ever again, but if there was, consider how we can introduce some understanding on productivity and workload.
Is there a conversation to be had now, but by being upfront about what you want to work, and where Amanda's mentioned it's desirable for organisations to show that flexibility? Do you think it's for those that are perhaps were afraid before, they might even reconsider their position within the organisation if other companies are seen to be much more flexible? They could lose some of their workforce effectively.
Definitely, there could be a shift, you know. I mean, if there are companies who are more flexible to the work hours or even the work locations, they definitely become more attractive to people who want that, right? So definitely, I can see that there could be a huge shift.
People are, particularly in the senior management. Now we've even seen senior managers and executives from our companies at home in their environment. There is a lot more understanding for working parents and mothers in particular. What's your experience been, Carly? I mean, have you ever seen someone perhaps in an environment where, you know, it was quite strange at first to see bosses and managers at home as well with their children homeschooling?
The perspective has opened. Organizations have become more acceptable. So certainly that opens up a huge market for women to not, step back and start thinking, hey, do I have to go into the office every single day? Because they will be provided with that flexibility. So definitely it is a huge change in mindset for the organization, which is going to really benefit working women.
Do you think there are key things that companies can be doing to show that they support their staff more, particularly working mothers?
Organizations can come up with programs like, welcoming mothers back into work. Like, there is a program that I know a really big organization in the US runs, where they welcome women who are coming back from a brief probation sort of. So they provide them some sort of training so that they are ready when they go back into work. So, coming up with programs like these would definitely help the working mothers. And of course, added flexibility is always a plus.
Do you think there should be more support for workers across the board to have increased flexibility, or do you think it should be the organisation that decides, because there are so many different roles?
That's a difficult question. I'd like to say it should be the organisation that would decide. These decisions shouldn't be specific to seniority or tenure. So in this question, they shouldn't be specific to male or female, parent or not. People should be allowed to ask for flexibility, regardless of their personal circumstances and regardless of having to justify it. You know, everybody has their own personal reasons for wanting flexibility. And I think there'd be an uproar if it was only something that was allowed for parents.
The follow-on to asking for flexibility, I think a big deterrent for people, they might ask, can I have an afternoon off? But the perception that managers or your organization will ask, but why? But why this? But why that? So not only the option of flexibility, but also to manage your own time. So we are adults, and sometimes we do need that afternoon, for a bit of life admin, and that's okay. because we know everyone works hard, and often people put in extra hours. So there shouldn't be that oversight or, you know, high level of scrutiny for that.
And then finally, if you perhaps look back at your own careers, are there points that you think, I wouldn't accept that now because of where I am, not only of seniority, but that organisation wasn't perhaps right for me at the time, but I carried on for a bit longer because of job security?
I think there's an element of squiggly careers. So now people are forecast to have something like 2, 3, 4 different careers through their lifetime. Whereas, you know, I had the first 20 years of my career at Shell, loyal, sturdy, steady. There was never any points actually that I felt like I was being treated badly or wanted to walk away. But if I had have done, then I would have walked away. So I think we all need to be aware of the choices we make, and we're not victims. And if you're not being treated right, then start to look elsewhere. But as Carly says, it's really important you have that discussion, because organisations might need an opportunity to learn and grow as well. And they might not be aware of how you're feeling.
And I think you've mentioned, I've been at with my organisation for 18 years now, and there was an inflection point where one job where I was not happy, but that was more on my manager at the time. So it wasn't the organisation's values, it was the way that that person was interpreting those and managing the team. And I did have the discussion and I did move jobs. But I'm very fortunate that our organisation is large enough that I could, you know, do different jobs in different areas and not kind of be kept in that same team where I wasn't very happy.
Well, a big thank you to you all, to Poonam, Carly and Amanda. And don't forget, if you're looking to find out more about Stanford Black's Women in Tech video series, then head to stanfordblack.com and click on #SBWomenInTech. And to join the conversation, you can also follow the Stanford Black LinkedIn page. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.